and welcome to another edition of the WRRAP podcast. Uh, it's a pretty sad time here today, but I am joined by Hattie and Dan. How are we both doing?
I'm in recovery,
Yeah.
but I'm okay.
No, Nick. Nothing particularly bad. He's celebrating the birth of a grandchild, so he's spending time with mum and baby. Yeah, and so we wish them all well. But for
Yeah,
those of you on YouTube
congratulations.
may have noticed the return of much beloved Zach.
Much
I
beloved
say
is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
you're one of the few Ospreys fans I like, so that's the threshold there.
Well, we've started strong.
I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Anyway, so before we get started, it's time for drink of the week. If like us, you feel like to talk about Welsh rugby at the moment, you need a beer. Why not check out our sponsor, the Six Nations, Beer 52? So with Beer 52, you've got a chance to get a free case of beer. Just go to beer52.com/wrap. So that's beer52.com/WRRAP. Pay your postage and you get free 8 cans of beer. So Beer 52 is the UK's #1 beer club, and every month you get a city's worth of beer, and you get to test it all out. And you've got everything from porters through to IPAs, pilsners, lagers, whatever. Each case gives you some unique beers that you probably won't find in the shop, which is really good. Like me, you're always trying to find something new because you can never decide when you look in the supermarket. It said refreshing lagers, stouts. If you don't fancy the darker side of things, you can just pick up the light box, or you can tailor it. Or if you do prefer your dark side, you can go towards there. In the box as well, you get lovely, tasty snacks. I can't show you those because I've eaten them this week, and they were actually very tasty. So I'm loving. And then if you want to know a little bit more about where these beers are coming from, the processes of beers, we do have the wonderful Ferment magazine. Uh, I said I'll flick through it. I flicked through it last week. I'm not going to go into too much detail for there. And just remember, if you're unsatisfied or you want a couple of weeks off, you're doing dry January, or stopped over, whatever reason you're going for giving up, you can pause your subscription or you can cancel it any time. That's up to you. So just remember, it's beer52/wrap, beer52.com/WRAP, and get your free 8 beers. Now, as for what the panel have got tonight, I'll start off with what I believe is called Simcoe Mosaic Equinox. I'll be honest, I picked this one because it's got a three-eyed bunny and it looks kind of cool. Nice little session pale ale, it's lovely and refreshing. Not one for some people, but I like them nice and hazy, so this is my thing. Zach, you weren't actually part of the original thing, but you liked the sound of it so much you actually went and got Beer
Yeah.
52 yourself. So what have you got today?
Our advertising worked.
Yeah, the sponsor will be happy with that. But I've got the Speed Date by the Yeasty Boys Pacific IPA. Big fan of something fruity, and ever so subtly just makes you look like a bit of a dick while you drink it. So I'm very much enjoying it.
So that was the one I had last week, and it was very Hattie, what have we gone for today?
We have got the Troubadour, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's a fun can. It's pink. I appreciate that because beer, it's not just for men.
It is not.
It's not. That was a bad joke. But it's quite tasty. It's light. It's fruity. Not quite as light and fruity as last week. It's a little bit leveled out, but hey ho, it's very nice.
And last but most certainly not least, Dan, what have you gone for? Have you gone for high strength today?
Well, what do you class as high strength? So I've gone.
Well, I mean, I think was it you ended up with 6 points something or other
You
last
had the
week,
big
so-
boy last
I
week.
did well. I'm down to maybe the senior uncle this week. So I've gone Son of a Gun, which is a hazy Australian pale ale at 5.8%, and it's by brothers-in-law. So see if we can get it on screen. So yeah, there's the can, and I'll be honest, it's taking the edge off nicely.
Mm.
So yeah.
So I said news decks, normally that's Nick's coverage. So basically from what I've gone for, there's mostly links and rumours. Cardiff wise, you've got the under 18s won the under 18 rag. Pretty comfortably, hands down. They finish off beating the Dragons the other week. Other than that, it's our Sequicentenary, so 150 years of Cardiff rugby. They've been they've released all that data. All the details for that are on last week's Cardiff Central podcast, so I suggest you check that out.
And a part
but
of that,
I'm
sorry,
gonna
Carly.
get on there. I'm gonna get onto the part of that. So this is one of the things that they're releasing is a book which is very heavily linked to our family podcast, because both Steve and Dan from the Cardiff Central podcast have got chapters, and a large part of it's been compiled by women's rugby treehouse presenter Sean's dad,
Yeah,
who
Win
is
Prescott.
Win Prescott. So yeah, I said it's if it all feels like it's part of that thing. We're hoping, at least certainly for on the Cardiff Central podcast, we'll have someone in to come, have a few people come in talk about that book. And just so you know, that's the last time I'm going to use the correct term of sexy-centenary, because from now on I'm following the Central Pod's pronunciation of sexy centenary, because it's just a bit more fun. Zach, unfortunately, I'm going to back to you because there's a load of stuff been coming out your way. I believe most of it's been covered on the Ospreys Erie last tonight, but do you just want to give the sort of cliff notes?
In the last 2 weeks, there've been a lot of statements put out. I've still got my notes earlier, but in order. Last week there was a meeting at a hall in Swansea. I can't remember which one. It changed on the day, where I think 500 odd, 600 people showed up, including a load of ex-internationals, ex-pros, the current Osprey staff, which was set up by Rod Stewart of Swansea County Council and Torsten Bell, who's the MP for Swansea West. And they basically aired out their thoughts of a statement they gave earlier in the week, saying that Swansea County Council are pursuing legal action against WRU and Y11 based on the development of St Helens, which it's a bit of a mess, to put politely. And it's all come from sort of everywhere. There are quite a few notable players spotted at said meeting. I think Alan Wynne-Jones was there. I think current Osprey Morgan Morris is there, among others. Grant Burney was asked to go up and talk. Well, if you want to hear more about his experience, we recorded the Erie 3 hours ago. It should be up on YouTube and Spotify already. I recommend a listen if you're interested. We also discussed the Osprey supporters club letter to Antonia. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Antonazzi.
Yeah, I'm also not going to pronounce it properly. I didn't pronounce it properly then. Apologies.
Don't apologise to her.
It's weird how her surname is very close to anti-trans.
So close. So close.
I'm not making any comment further than that. It's just something I've noticed.
If I speak, I'm in trouble. But that came out. They sent that earlier today. And then in the last 2 hours, since I recorded the Erie, former Ospreys have released a further statement stating that they, after their initial statement a few weeks ago, they tried to get in contact with WRU, of which Abby Tierney and Dave Redden, on behalf of them, contacted what they described as a group of prominent former internationals on an informal discussion, but the entire group of the Ospreys denied that on principle that they wanted everyone in that group to have an equal voice and to be let into the light rather than be kept in the dark. And they put out a further statement today saying as much and being quite annoyed at them. It's been busy, to say the least, and it's a little bit all over the place. And I'm very tired of talking about it already.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, we've also had a statement released by Hayley Parsons, who's sort of one of the co-founders of Go
That's
Dot
what I
Compare.
Go Compare of WRU jersey fame.
Yeah, as in
And
one of the
other
central
things.
sponsors.
Yeah.
One of the main sponsors has come out and sort of complained about how terrible she thinks it is that this with the lack of transparency and things. So
that came out 10 minutes after we finished.
Yeah, so there seems to be a lot of people piling on to WRU for this, and rightly so. Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to have an input onto that, or you got any news to share based from out to Scarlets or Dragons way?
Don't have Scarlet's news, but I have Wales women's news.
I was going to get there.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, Karen Lake has announced her retirement. She's 35. She's got 54 caps. She is pretty well known in the women's rugby world for being one of the first to have a baby in the middle of her career and coming back, which now we kind of take for granted with like Abby Ward, et cetera, et cetera. But at the time, it was kind of revolutionary that women go off, have a baby, and come back and balance an international rugby career whilst having a child. Shocking. She played the vast majority of her rugby in kind of domestic structure in Wales, only moved across during COVID when Welsh women's rugby kind of stopped in Wales. So yeah, it's expected. I don't think anyone's surprised by her retirement, but I personally really hope that she ends up not necessarily coaching, but working in like team management, something like that. That's something that she was doing. She was working in management and admin before as her like primary job alongside rugby. And from what I know, where she's been in Gwalia Lightning camp, she's been kind of working as a mentor with the younger players. Um, so I think she's known for being kind of somebody who's really, really important to have in camp, even though she's not necessarily playing. So I think it's going to be really, really important to have her as team manager or something like that and keep her in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. I just always remember as being someone who sort of added a little bit of nastiness to that Wales midfield, and I always appreciated that. But I said I thought, like you
Yeah.
said, it's not necessarily the biggest surprise, but it's always sad when you see a player retire. But if it's as it seems to be on her own terms, all the best
Yeah.
for whatever plans are for the future.
Absolutely. It's always nice to go out on when you decide to.
Yeah.
Is always a plus, I think, because I think there's too many people that go on and on and on, and they go out injured or they don't get to have a say in it. So yeah, good for her going out on top, if you like, I suppose.
Mm.
I got a little bit of Dragons news, no good news,
Oh.
and it's all and I haven't got a much to add other than the headline really, and it was only that we saw earlier on that Rob Hunt in a hospital gown laid in bed. So our tight head, probably our best signing of the season, is undergoing surgery on an injury. We don't know what yet or how long it'll be out, but the way his knee was heavily strapped for that last outing, or the last few outings really, and the way he went down, I'd be amazed if we see him again this season. So yeah, good luck to him. Hopefully we get Dylan back as well to go along with Dlamini, the other South African signing. So yeah, speedy recoveries to Rob Hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I think it's kind of weird that both Cardiff and Dragons, their best signings this season, both been their tight head prop. Good thing to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, and they have. But then it goes to show, doesn't it? That's why I think when you look at a breakdown of like salary for rugby players outside of fly halves, the highest paid in the squad is probably a
I
specialist
think for a
position.
while, certainly in the top 14, they were the highest paid.
Yeah, and
The good tight head, so a good tight head can make
absolutely
can make a team.
absolutely. And if you've never been in there, it's a hell of a place to be. So yeah, they deserve every penny, and yeah, good luck with a recovery, Rob Hunt. Hopefully he comes back bigger and stronger for next season. And then I was just gonna have a little bit of a moan really before we got into the crux of it.
Moan
So do you
about
want me?
what specifically?
Well, I was gonna openly call for a couple of resignations at the union. So do you want me to do that now, or do you want to hold?
Well, I was going to give the panel an option. Do you want to talk about? We'll go on to the on-field stuff now. Do you want to talk about the really depressing or the slightly optimistic game? Or or we can review the senior Wales England, talk about Wales England under 20s, and then preview France. So you've got something that picks us up a little bit in the middle.
Yeah, because I thought the 20s did. It was a game of two halves, but I thought they had a good go. So you lead away, Maestro. Which way do you want this to go?
Right. So we'll instead of starting off on the Friday, then we'll start off on Saturday when England had a barely contested training run against the Wales national side, which unfortunately they decided to count as part of the Six Nations Championship, as we went down too many points to 7. with our sole try coming from Josh Adams, converted by Dan Edwards.
Josh Adams, of all the people, if somebody said to me, who do you think is going to be our try scorer on the weekend? No offense to Josh Adams, wouldn't have picked him.
Then you clearly don't know wingers enough then, Hattie, because if anyone's going to score against England, it's going to be Josh Adams on a crossfield kick.
In 2026?
Yep.
So it's a bit.
He'll be doing it till 2029.
7 years out of fashion, I thought.
Yeah. It was not 2019.
And he's still doing it in 20. He was doing it in
He
21. He did it in
and
23.
I was surprised. I was
He did it in
surprised.
21. He did it in 23. Of course, he's doing it in 25. I'm going to let the panel go over to their thoughts of all this. Dan, you've made a bold call of doing some resignations. Do you want to call for them first, or shall we get Zach and Hattie's?
Well, no,
First
it's
opinions.
not from a rugby perspective. It's an off-field thing, so we can wait until we preview the France game, if you like. That'll tee it up
Okay.
nicely. Because after we had a discussion about me obviously picking up my tickets for the France game, I got a little bit of a bee in my bonnet about it. So, yeah, we'll have a chat about that later on. But I'm more than happy to start the ball rolling on Saturday, if you like.
I'm assuming Dan's going to be the most negative. So if we start with Dan,
You have no idea what I've read.
and then, yeah, go on.
I will try and pick some positives out for people at the end, which will be hard because I watched this whilst coming off from local anaesthetic.
Well,
It was not comfortable.
I'll give you two positives to start with, if you like. How about that?
Go
And
on then.
my one positive was I thought that Reece Zammit at fullback went okay. Made a line break or two. He did okay under the spiral bombs. Got some work to do in that position, I think. But on the whole, I think he did okay. And on it definitely put my teeth back in. In a team on the front foot, he's world class pace. He's clearly picked up a bit of power in the NFL. He's able to ride a few more tackles than he was before. So I thought that went okay. And my other shining light on an otherwise dim afternoon was Aaron Wainwright. I thought his work from the base of the scrum, he was our only gain line carrier, really. I thought his work from the base of the scrum was neat and tidy. Always got gain line. He carried the ball hard, made his tackles, and I think he can sort of hold his head high in terms of his performance on the weekend. Other than that, what else is there to say? I think when we spoke about this fixture last week and previewed it, we kind of called it perfectly well, really, didn't we? That England were going to wait until they got in the right areas before they sprung attacks. Attacks would be shape on shape, as in players out the back. Dingwall would take the ball to the line. They both did exactly that. Ford kicked the leather off it to compete and to pin us back in the corners. And Mitchell did the same thing from box kicks, and we sort of got suckered right into it early doors. Every time we returned the ball, we kicked it long. The box kick in and the kick to compete was nowhere near good enough. And every time we did go towards the backfield, we ended up finding Ford. So work that one out. He's arguably the best in the world at it. Yet we somehow managed to pick him out in the backfield every time. I don't know what you guys think on that strategy. I thought Dan Edwards kicking out of hand was really poor.
I think Dan Ed's kicking out of hand looks that of a 20-year-old who's played 2 years of professional rugby. Which, it's a hard to say. I don't think he's been thrown in a horrible situation and been told to kick the lever off it the best he can when he's not exactly a big lad to begin with, and his kicking range has never been the best part of his game. It's always been his game management, not necessarily kicking the distance in the same way that George Ford is arguably the best 10 in the world at the moment. Maybe
I see what you're saying and saying like, oh yeah, he's what, like 22. Finn Smith is a year older than him. Obviously, Finn Smith wasn't picked this week, but that comes down to like how the WRU and the regions develop players. That's not on his age at 22. That's on his development not being right. I think if England can produce somebody like Finn Smith, who's a year older.
I'd
But
also think
tactically, I thought it was irrespective of the technique and the ability. I just thought it was tactically naive from him.
I think
Surely, if you're kicking long, you want to kick long and long, you have to turn the back two, or you kick in that what would be the chip zone to compete every time you found a person from the
it
player in the backfield.
it reminds me a lot of Johan Lloyd's performance in 2024, where it looked like it was a massive step up in quality that he'd been playing at for the last sort of 6 months. Where the last 6 months he's looked like a good regional club player, and he's struggling to take that step up into international, which you can probably expect going backwards all the time. But every time he kicked somewhere, he saw space, he kicked it, and then Ford covered it because he's been playing international rugby for 12 years at the end of the day and can sort of read what's going through a young ten's mind. I sort of feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's a learning curve he's going to have to get used to if he wants to keep Wales 10 shirt going forward.
I think this
it's very
is
hard going.
so just going sort of with like Zach being, saying like the development sort of got failed at regional and Wales level. This is once again yet another symptom of how mismanaged the pathways have been since that golden generation. Because really, we should be having someone in place for that, so that Dan Edwards doesn't have to. I mean, the reason why Dan Edwards is playing is because effectively Costello's been injured for a long period, and then we don't really have anyone else. Like, maybe. I mean, it's not as necessary that I necessarily agreed with him, but Josh Gardner on Bud Mud Point made a point saying maybe it'd be better off to not have Dan Edwards in this Wales team at the moment until we sort everything else out and just let him learn his trade in the URC, and you just have the other one of the other tens. You have like a Sheedy or Lloyd, and then they're just going through until Dan Edwards is ready. But you're never going to know he's ready until you stick him in the test arena because we don't have Wales A.
Yeah.
But there were also some
a lot of people say,
performances
it's
last year,
purely for
mate,
development. But if you look at like Scotland and England, a lot of their A team, or when France send their tour off to the Southern Hemisphere, there's still some seriously
Big
experienced
names.
players in there. But it's just working out, are these combinations going to work? Are they going to play in the style? And it's almost like it's almost a free hit out because you don't have things like ranking points, you don't have tournament fees to worry about. And it is one of those things.
I just thought that everyone was thinking that he deserved to retain the shirt, and I'm unsure as to whether one pour out in when everyone was so awfully bad deserves for him to have it ripped off his back the very next week. But I think his naivety and some of his technical work in terms of his where he was placing his kicks was way off for me. And it was one of the reasons then why we just kept losing the kicking battle. Because irrespective of the physicality, we lost the kicking battle as well. So and the ball was ping pong back and forth until Josh Adams or Reece Zammit would get the ball and just kick it out on the full near our 22, and then they'd launch from it, and it was game on.
And it wasn't just his kicking either. Like his passing was bad. He was just consistently in kind of a really odd position. There was a lot of things, and I think you're right. It was naive. I don't think he just wasn't. I don't want to say he wasn't ready, but like he shouldn't be starting a game like that if that's the naivety he's going to have. If that makes any sense. I think it's fine to kind of have, well, it's not fine, but you kind of expect the 10 that's coming off the bench to maybe be a bit naive and be developing. You don't necessarily expect it from your starting 10 that's had how many games in a row as our starting 10.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet. Maybe by the end of this, and we're picking a team for next week, I'll have more of an opinion on it. But I did feel sorry for him a little bit, and then just to sort of move away from sort of his performance, because it wouldn't down to him. I thought we just got absolutely manhandled up front. They mauled us. They got gain line and one. Right, people listening must be fed up with me saying it, but in order to win rugby matches, you have to win collisions. And I don't think we won many on the weekend at all.
I've got a few stats if you want them.
Go on, fire them in.
They're not fun stats. Wales had a total of 5 dominant tackles all game.
3 of
And
them
who
were
were they
Adam
by?
Beard.
Adam Beard with 2, Nicky Smith with 1, Daft Jenkins with 1, Alex Mann with 1. All game. England had, I think, 15, counting them up,
15.
if not more.
Wow.
Sorry, 17 even,
Wow.
which is absurd.
I'm
There
not
is a
surprised.
level of physicality there, which is.
Do they think they're the Red Roses?
But
They
it's-
wish
They are the
were.
men's ones.
But I saw a stat that come up on the TV, and I stand to be correct on this, that we actually put out a bigger pack than them.
Yeah.
Weight wise. So all of this element of we not got big enough men and so on
It's
and
not
so
size,
forth.
it's mentality.
It's not exactly, and I've said this previously. Physicality is a mentality. Now you look at the way and how many of those dominant tackles were Underhill?
4.
There you go, 4 on his own.
As an Ospreys product, I'm proud of them, but also.
But Underhill's not a big man. Pepper, not their back row was compared to other international teams was fairly diminutive, really. No monsters in it, and they dominated us physically. Now, how are we ever going to win a test match now if we put out a pack similar to that every week? And this is where I spoke about it on Saturday or Sunday in our WhatsApp group, whereby this is what happens when you get initial squad selection wrong for me. This is where this is all about picking hard-nosed people now that are willing to work on the gain line for you, that will win collisions for you. But yet we've left out, and on the weekend we've left out Cracknell. Moriarty didn't make the squad. We left out both them on the weekend. Ball didn't make the squad. Reffel didn't make the squad. I beggars belief for me. We just seemed really, really soft and got bullied. Then because we getting bullied up front, we got no outlet in the back line because Ben Thomas is a ball playing 12. He's irrespective of whether he's bulked up or not, he doesn't want to be carrying the ball into that level of traffic. That's not what he's there for. We play Eddie James. How many touches of the ball did Eddie James have in the first half? None.
I don't think I actually saw him touch the ball to the second half, and I remember the comms team were like, "Oh, it's like the first time Eddie James has touched the ball." When he had the ball, he made meters, but it's pointless having him at 13
Well, this is it.
if he's not going to get the ball.
Well, exactly.
What's the point in having a big man at 13
None.
if he's not going to get the ball?
None whatsoever. You have to have that platform for him to start off with. So I just thought that we were tactically naive. England looked much more well organised than us. They were better. They looked better coached than we did. Let's not beat around the bush. They've had the same sort of time together than us. We got out muscled up front. We were tactically naive in the backs, and some of the performances in the back line was really poor. And then when you're under pressure, pressure turns into territory. Territory turns into penalties. Penalties turns into yellow cards, and you're not going to win a game where you have 4 yellow cards. It's just not going to happen. And if we go anywhere near being similar on Saturday, we'll ship 60 at
And the
home.
rest.
That's the reality for us.
I think it's not even the penalties and the yellow cards we conceded being under pressure that bothered me. It was the
silly ones.
It was the stupid things like Dav Jenkins. No, I'll have my rant on the referee in a bit, but Dav Jenkins knows he can't just sneak his way in there, and that was our first line out as well. Like that's our first attempt at them all. I know England. This is one thing when you look at like your set piece efficiency going down. England are one of the best teams at spoiling other teams' ball. They throw the they are more likely to get line out ball. There was a point when they were more likely to get line out ball off the opposition than they were off their own line out at one point because they've just got players like Chesham and Nitoje. Alex Coles is very good at it as well. They just love getting up and stealing, and they're incredibly clever line out tacticians. But that first line out, you don't really want to try it. The thing that bothered me though is after that then was he got pinged for obstruction, and England did it in every single one of their mauls. Just saying. But that's not why we lost. That's just more me getting pissed off with lacking consistency. And then Derry Lake, like how many tap penalties has Derry Lake taken
Scored
in
us
his
like
career?
4
Like he's
this
an
season.
Ospreys hooker. He will have taken like hundreds a season.
Mm.
And he forgot to tap.
I
Yeah,
think
it's inexcusable,
Like,
isn't it?
It's one of those ones where I feel like maybe even with like it might explain with like Dan Edwards' performances. Is the rot in Welsh rugby that bad? I mean, it is, but I mean, is it despite what they're saying in camp?
I've
Players have
got
got half a mind on it.
I've got a theory about Derry, which I was discussing this after the RE earlier, and that Derry's always looked best when he's had a decent time out and comes back into the side. Looks really good at the start of the season and sort of faded away since. But I remember him noticing on a podcast a couple of years ago that instead of getting when he's learning to become a hooker and properly transitioning to help him with his darts and get him right, he didn't speak to a line-out coach or anything. He spoke to a kicking coach to help with his mentality around it and his confidence around it, which sorted the issue out for a couple of seasons. And it's all of a sudden sort of come back with all this insecurity almost. And to say that the off-field matters aren't playing with them on the field I don't think it's true. I feel like it's what they want to believe, but they know it's not true. I think Derry's a very emotional player. You saw it when he was in tears after being in Japan in the summer.
I do agree with you. I think the off-field stuff I think is probably affecting, especially the likes of like who is quite an emotional player. I will say there was a stat that actually there was only one misstep from him on the throws, and most of it was just jumping errors.
Yeah, so Scott Baldwin sort of posted a thing, and he sort of gave his opinion on the lineouts. And he
He's
said
part of the
basically
hooker.
there was the one Lake overthrow, and then there was a Belcher underthrow. But he said even if that had hit the man, Pepper had already read the call so well that it was, that was always going to be a steal. And
He's part of the hooker trade union, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Scott, so.
but I don't think he's necessarily wrong. Like maybe it's exaggerated a little bit with it being only one either side, but I think when it comes to lineouts, like everybody needs to take how bad the Wales lineout is. Everybody involved has to take responsibility. You can't just blame the hooker. But I think for him, like his missed tap penalty things like his leadership was just poor for me. And everybody kind of takes the piss out of England for having like 27 captains, but actually they were very, very tight as a team. The leadership was clear and through. And in Wales, we were just kind of rudderless.
But again, I think that goes back to the whole off field stuff. I don't want to make it as an excuse for players because I think there's a lot of things that weren't the effort, but it's got to have an effect. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, going back to the line out, I think it's important for everyone to realise that it's quite a technical area. There's a lot that can go wrong, and in its most basic form, you think there are 4 things off the top of my head, 5 things that can go wrong in the line. So first of all, we have a miscommunication on the call, so that screws you straight away. Then your possible options for a failed line out are hooker throw, front lift pull, back lift pull, or the jump being pull. Well, there are 5 things just to start, and that's without throwing in anything positive that the opposition do. So that's how technical that. One of those things being off just a little bit compared to the other moving parts in our lineup, and the chances are you may lose it. So it's not just a case of we got to throw the ball in, and it takes a lot of time to drill. And the other thing that was, our set pieces, Paul. The other thing that's really bothering me at the moment is that Wales are really easy to score against. And with Steve Tandy being a defence coach by trade is surprising me a little bit. But then when you think about it, like our coaching team is effectively made up of like a lot of part-time staff as well. So the scrum coach part-time comes in for, was Duncan Jones before his
Yeah,
injury.
thank you. It just reminded me of one bit of news. Of the one bit of news.
What weird. I don't know what happened there, but weird.
Dan Lydiot coming in the contact area on a part-time basis. Reece Patchell goes in on a part-time basis to do some kicking. Then, in theory, you've also got a part-time defence coach because Tandy, whose role as a hedge coach should be setting the culture, setting the overall game plan, both sides of the ball, player management, coach management, all of these other little bits and pieces. Plus, he's also picking up the defence role. So he's effectively, we got one person doing 2 full-time roles. His working hours must be through the roof. So I think something's got to give on that because, I shared a clip with you guys earlier on about everything that I thought was wrong with our defence on the weekend and how easy we were to score against. We conceded 250 points in 5 games, thereabouts. Like, in the words of Mick McCarthy, that can't go on, can it? It can.
It can.
So that we need to, if it was me now, I think I would be in a position whereby we need to start backwards to go forwards, and I plug the dam. We can go out and score 4 tries against the All Blacks, that's great, but we concede in 8. We might score 4 tries on the weekend at home against France, but if we concede 8, it's pointless. So we have to be more aggressive and proactive. And for me, we looked as though we were defending not to concede tries rather than defending to get the ball back. And there's a distinct difference between the two.
I think as well with this, I mean, I don't know if you can get the clip up whilst I sort of explain my theory on this. A little bit of the defences, it kind of reminds me of when we've had games playing for the All Pens, and our coach JC talks about there just not being the hunger to get up in there. It's almost like this, a lot of the top defence coaches talk about how it's almost a mentality sort of thing, and the want to get up and get into line, get into shape, and try and beat. I feel like with Wales, it's not there, and I don't know if that's necessarily a culture thing. I don't know if it's people unclear on the shape. We have some issues with players shooting out of line. Then I think if you're going to shoot and go on your own, you've got to make a hit. You've just got to make your decision, and then they sort of dither, and then that almost blocks other tacklers and compresses your line. And
I agree. And my theory on it and my opinion on it is this, right? If you can effectively defend one of 2 ways, right? That's hard or soft. On the most basic principle there. Hard being you get up off the line, South African style, whether you want to call it hammer, blitz, whatever it is, go and get teams. Or you can get off the line and then sit and drift and hope that. But for me, that's like a death by 1,000 cuts. Now, if you've got a team full of people that can make whacking great collisions on the gain line, then yeah, it's okay. Because you can still affect the tackle and you can still slow the ball down. But at the moment, we're soft in D, and we're losing like a metre at a time. Every time we're losing a metre, then 3 metres, then 4 metres, then we may make a positive tackle, then we lose 3 metres. So eventually, teams are able to go multi-phase against us because we're sitting off. It's really soft. Whereas if you go hard at them, we all know that if you get a 4-phase shutdown in defence, they'll kick you the ball back. It's as simple as that. But we are so soft, and it seems really disconnected and really unorganised. So do you want me to share this, Harley, so we can all nerd out on it?
Go for it, and we can
5 minutes.
talk through.
How do I share this on here now then?
There should be a little.
A little.
I got it. Can you see my screen?
No.
Right,
Oh,
there we
yeah.
go.
Here we go. Right. Hey, this is technical for us, isn't it? Look at this, look. So if you're on YouTube now, you're in for a right treat.
Yeah, apologies. This doesn't make good audio, but Dan's just
if you're on audio, then watch the video later on. But from a descriptive perspective, this is an England line-out on hour 22, I think, and this sort of summed our day up, right? So first and foremost, if you have a little watch how they maul. Absolutely destroyed us at maul, and they took the stuffing out of us, didn't they, very quickly. And this is how they softened us up. A little bit of maul. Here we go. Easy play out the back. So, let me just take this back here. Now, in terms of this, our D here, they've tied up most of our forwards. Now, if I just stop it there, look how narrow our defence is. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of our back line all turned in already. So, hips facing in. We're not square, apart from Dan Edwards, who's already sat on the toilet. So because we're not square, it makes it very difficult to defend this play because it's hard to cover the man on the pull back out the back. So here we go. We play on. There he is. He's in the gap. We scramble well. In fairness, we try and slow the ball down. Penalty advantage. One more carry. We scramble again. Now, this summed our D up again for me here. So if I pause it here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the blue boot in the corner is Nicky Smith. That's 10 Welsh defenders. All within, 5 metres? One pass. And it's 5v1. And the kids at under 11s could score that. And that, for me, was the theme of our day out.
So for me, one of the because when you shared it to me, one of my first issues, I think that the decision to go up, so particularly middle pod, I think when you could see that England were going to maul it, I thought that was quite a naive decision. Then it was also seemed to be either a late or a poor lift of Matt's man, so there's almost no real reason. And then all they did seem to do was open up a space for England to drive that wedge through. But right towards the end, just before the final phase before the try, I noticed you had both Adams and Zammit sort of stuck in the midfield. Ben Thomas was sort of in the A guard. As you said, Nicky Smith was under the post, so he was sort of in that D position. Yeah, I mean, this is a problem when you get broken so easily.
Mm.
It feels like we don't have a defensive leader in the back line. No one who really knows what they're doing, who knows how to manage these situations.
It was back on screen. It starts here. Look how narrow it is as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You got what? Josh Adams, McLeod, Dan Eds, and Ben Thomas all in the same sort of 5 meters.
Yeah,
all inside the first post.
Yeah, and Ellis Mee is, who's the right winger. In theory, should be a bit further out, but he's had to come in because of how compressed that defense is.
Yeah, it's pulled everyone in. The connection there is terrible. Like ideally, one flat four there. You may have your winger at half, but full back is always on the last man. Full back's always the fail safe on the last man, but who's there? And it just sort of summed us up. Like we don't look coached, do we? It's a penalty to slow it down.
So you're probably looking at another one there.
Yeah.
For our
desperation.
Audio listeners, we all look incredibly depressed watching a video clip of Wales getting flattened.
Yeah, I am sorry.
I think I think we might clip some of this up for YouTube, so I would check it out if you haven't got time to watch the full pod. We'll get producer Lee to do this bit as well.
Yeah, and there we go. But for me, that one score alone summed our day up, whereby we were easy. We narrowed up very quickly. We didn't get off the line. We left acres of space in behind. Large gaps for the opposition, and one pass ultimately, the last try scoring pass but one took out 10 defenders. Now, if I was coaching my under 11s on the weekend, I'd be annoyed at that. let alone Steve Tandy having to review that on Monday morning. He must be pulling his hair out because I can't see him. I can't. Well, yeah. I can't see him coaching that. Hips turned in. You have to stay square. We're not aggressive. We're conceding, and then Alex Mann there is positioning on the floor, conceding the penalty is a prime example of what happens when you're under pressure. You have to try and slow the ball down somehow, otherwise they're definitely going to score. So you can see the penalty. This.
And then McLeod does has to go try and do the exact same thing in the next phases because you're doing absolutely anything to.
Yeah, but we again we can't go on like that. If it can, yeah. Well, if it does, we won't win a game in the Six Nations, and we won't win a game in.
A long time.
We are in real trouble because I think that these players on here they are better than that. We did have a bad day at the office as well, but I think they are better than that. Because that's for me, that's just not the one. They're not being coached to do that.
I think the thing is now as well, like we have to be going for, like as you said, like we're under pressure, so we're conceding penalties, but we also now just have this reputation. And even if referees go in saying, "Oh no, I'm not going to coach reputation," of course they do. Of course, like it's going to happen. And we've got this reputation now of we can see penalties, we're penalty magnets. We've got certain players who are known as penalty magnets, and we're just racking them up beyond belief. And it's going to keep happening unless we start playing super, super clean.
Well, nine penalties in the first 20 minutes. We wrestled that back a little bit, but you're never going to win a test match with the discipline levels that we had. But I think it's because we got some system errors in D that's the issue for us, and it's so soft. And then to look at our attack failed miserably. Whenever we did have the ball, we mentioned the kicking game briefly, but our attack was. I don't think that we're in a position to play the way that Jockey wants us to attack if we want to win international games of rugby on a regular basis.
I think, like you said, about paring it back so that you know, working backwards so that our defense actually moves forwards, we're able to get the ball back. I think also our attack, instead of playing the way he wants to play, he needs to pare it back a little bit and go with what's actually going to work instead of the idea in his head.
And I'll throw this one out to the panel as well, I suppose, in that Ben Thomas has taken a lot of stick, right? And again, based on the weekend, I don't think he's our solution at 12. I genuinely don't. There's nothing against Ben, because at regional level he has been doing the business. But he's not an outlet if we're on the back foot. He's not an outlet for us at the moment, right? Well, I don't think that he is. So therefore, for example, is it easier to try and coach Eddie James the skill set that's required?
Eddie James, who came through who started off as a 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I think he's known for being a big lad and being, that kind of
But he
like
can play.
Jamie Roberts crash. But he's got nice hands. He can play. Like I think it's going to be easier as you're trying to say, Dan, but we've all interrupted you. I think it's going to be easier to transition him into this ball playing 12 that can also crash it up than it is to get Ben Thomas to be more physical.
Well, you also, right, you can't make Ben Thomas 6'5" and 110 kilos or 105
No.
kilos or whatever Eddie James is. That's genetics. It's
Yeah.
impossible. So surely the time investment has to be, because we're struggling to win collisions and gain line. The time investment has to be in the bigger lads, unfortunately, because rugby is for everybody. But at this level, I think we do need to persevere with some bigger bodies in there. And this goes back to then as well. You talk about the first squad selection. We didn't take the opportunity to have a look at Williams from Bristol and Bradley from Harlequins as well.
Can I quickly bring out Keith from Neath, who was snubbed again, but always gets over the game line pretty consistently, as the one proper ball carrying 12 we have in Wales, probably at the moment.
Yeah, and I whether he would be able to cut it at international level, the only way you'd find out is by trying him in there again. But again, my point is, if it was me now, and I know we'll move on to selection for the weekend, I would be getting as many physical and big bodies in there as possible to take on France. Because otherwise, like people on YouTube have just seen the clip, it's going to look a lot like that. And what France have got in their locker, that England haven't. Well, not that they haven't, but France is much more jouet. Once the game breaks up, they're more than happy to offload balls out the back of the back door. They'll kick and chase, and it'll just be relentless for 80 minutes. We'd be chasing shadows if we don't win enough collisions, we don't clean our kicking game up. Kick's got to be to compete, and we need to sort our D system errors out because we're staring down the barrel.
Yeah, absolutely. And if no one else, guessing no one else has anything else to say on that game, really? No.
Let's forget about it. It never happened.
Right,
Just
so-
move on.
Feels like
Right.
1999. No, sorry, 2000s.
Well, if you're enjoying the misery that's coming from this, or you want to find something more heartening to talk about, so why don't you check out all our sister podcasts on the WRRAP channel? So we have an SRC podcast looking at Super Rugby Cymru, the Welsh language pod. So if like me you don't speak Welsh, I listen to it after a Wales loss because I don't have to listen to what went wrong. Or if you do speak Welsh, Nick and the team are incredibly informative, know their stuff. We also have all the individual regional pods, but also some big stuff that got released yesterday on our sister channel Global Gameline. The Women's Rugby Treehouse is back. They kept it to an hour.
An hour
we
and
are
like
so
6
proud.
seconds.
I'm considering them ad breaks. It's fine. I'm saying that
Yeah.
that wasn't your recording. So they're back talking about so they've been catching up on the PWR, the Celtic Challenge, then gearing up ready for the Women's Six Nations. We also have the Interpro show. So if you think we're a miserable bunch, just wait until they start talking about their loss to France. We also have the URC Rewind. They're sort of talking through the Celtic nations perspective of the thing. We also have USA Pod that's sort of gone into downtime, but I imagine as MLR and things start kicking up, and WER they'll start coming up through. We also have a South African pod, but again, that's sort of taking the back seat for now. I believe that's everything. We also have top 14 digests with a friend of the pod, Hughes, Madam Maz. They sort of joined, and David Scum of the Earth. So if you want to listen back and laugh at how wrong I got some things over the last weekend, you can check out David's Six Nations preview. I mean, the one thing I did suggest, I think the only thing I got right was that it was going to be a painful watch for the Wales game. Anyway, so check all them out. Share the pod with a friend, make lots of comments. Lee, it's literally Lee's favorite thing is to reply to people in the YouTube. Other than that, I think we'll move on to the slightly more positive. In that, at least it was a Wales team that was actually smaller and held a very good account of themselves physically. As Wales under 20s went off to Northampton. Final score was 19-16, but we were 16-0 up at half time in what was incredibly terrible weather, and I thought it was a fantastic game where I think for me the big issue was because England under 20 teams are massive because they have lots of massive lads they can pick at that age. We just sort of ran out of puff physically there, but there's a lot to like.
Yeah. I think for me, I am going to put my bias Scarlet's hat on very quickly.
Yeah, Carl Degan-Jones is very good.
Yeah, CLJ he was phenomenal. And I think England targeted him very early on. They realised that he was the biggest threat and they targeted him. And there were a couple of cheap shots going in on him even before he was taken out and the red card was given. So, it was good from the England side that they were able to figure out who our strongest performer was, but not good that they hit him in the head. But yeah, he was phenomenal. I am going to say we should all put the brakes on bringing him into senior Wales camp, as we all said earlier, because that would just not be good for his psyche. I think, keep him in under 20s and let him develop and keep him out of the shit show.
Yeah, I thought he was well. I say I thought he was excellent. It was a game of two halves for me. We won the first half 16-0, lost the second one 19-0. I thought what's the captain's name? Is he Dion Gwyn? Is it the lad who played in the back row? I thought he was excellent for us. But I suppose the star of the show would be Carwyn Leggett-Jones, and and this is where I think he's definitely still got a lot to learn, because Wales just in the second half, Wales just needed to keep lumping the ball back down into their half, and didn't even need to play with it really. But I think we lacked a little bit of game management in the second half.
He did go off quite early in that second half.
What time did he go off? Do we know?
I think it was...
he got hit high and then stayed on for another 5 minutes, and on the 60th minute. So it would have been sort of 10 minutes left.
Right. So
I think there were definitely some things where I feel like he kept trying the grubber through,
and it
just
didn't
kept
work.
hitting an English leg. I
Yeah,
don't
but
mind
he's
that
learning.
at this level. Like, again, that's
Yeah.
the sort of thing he's going to find out, that
But
all right, fine, it doesn't work.
But my
But I did
understanding
think
is-
it was also, I thought actually that Cardiff midfield that were backing him up, I thought they worked
Definitely.
really well with him as well. And like,
Steph Emanuel looked very good.
yes,
Yeah, he
as
did.
usual.
and he
but
looks like he's got potential to be a little bit more. There's a little bit more about him physically, even though he's still
Yeah.
quite a young lad, so that's good. And Tom Bowen, even in what was sludge, still looked incredibly quick.
For the first 30 minutes of the game, Tom Bowen looked the best player on the pitch just because he looked like a step above everyone, both physically and as a player. Which, as a winger on a pitch like that, in conditions like that, and given that he's only 5'2", effectively, it's immense. Really kept Noah Kaleri quiet, which was
Given that Chloe's big thing is high balls. When high balls were going that way, at least in the first half, Bowen was having the better of him. I think towards the end they worked out how to position it to give Chloe the best, but he wasn't massively found out, which is it is definitely one of the areas of his game he needs to work on a lot more. But he seems to be working that. Hopefully, spend a lot more time with Halfpenny, who has lots of experience of being as a small guy, having to learn how to catch high balls.
Yeah, and
Can help him.
On the whole, I just thought that England's sort of what's the word I'm looking for? England's execution in the final third was much more clinical than ours was, because in the first half, 16-0 was probably, well, ultimately it was three or 4 points short, but we left a few out there in terms of red zone entries, whereas England were much more clinical in red zone entries, and this actually followed a theme. I think there's this bit of a problem for us on the whole, whereby I went to Estradmanach and watched the 19s play England a couple of weeks ago in one of these development games, and Wales battered them really in terms of possession and territory. It must have been 60% possession and territory to Wales, but I think they shipped 50 points. Every time there was a turnover, England much more clinical. Once they were in, that's it, they were in. Wales just couldn't get over. So I think that would be the main work on for me, would be how do we ensure that we get in sort of 80% success rate when we get in our red zone, plus how are we ensuring that we're coming away with points? What are our points per entry? How are we getting those levels up? Because it'll make a massive difference to us. Carwyn Leggett-Jones still, I think he's still in what would be in old money, still be at the sixth. So he's still in the sixth form in school.
He's still in school.
So that means
he's had to get permission from his mum to take school off and go training and things. And he's played for Scarlets. That's
which is a brilliant story. So let's not break him, and let him learn. So yeah, that's all good. But it was positive. I thought that, and I think we need to be honest with ourselves, that the conditions were a massive leveler. And in the first half, we were better in those real poor conditions than England were. But I suppose now, having got so close, and not quite got over the line, it'll be interesting to see how we progressed when we take on the French next week, which I'm assuming will be full of lads that are playing their trade in like the Pro D2 and sort of second team rugby at Toulouse and Racing and so on and so forth. So
an under-20s team that utterly demolished the Irish under-20s.
Yeah, they play men's rugby.
Yeah.
So it's going to be men
I would like to give a slight word of sympathy to one of the opposition players from Friday night, Sonny Tonguia, the bench tight head prop, who had to come on at 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And bless him, I never thought I'd say this prop that I'd see a prop too large to scrummage, but bless him, I think he was bigger than the second rows, and that always is going to cause you all problems with him trying to get down and bind. I feel like he's someone who's clearly grown into his adult frame a bit too early. I can see him being a very good prop in the Premiership moving forward.
I was
But I
going to
think at
say,
under 20s level, I think he almost his size almost was almost a bit of an inhibition to him.
he's the type of prop that you'd see in like the Pro Data or the top 14 just on sheer size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like who's it, Tuilangi that was playing for France
Oh,
20s,
Solo.
who's absolutely huge but almost too big to be used in a lot because he's not a jumping option, but he's also too big to be a tight head because he's too big. He's 6'7".
You know,
Imagine having that problem. Imagine like Wales could not imagine having such a massive lump.
I don't know. We've got the son of the biggest scrummaging man in Wales, or Paul James, and Dylan James's son on the bench, who's breaking him this season. And you know what? I believe there's one man who can teach you how to scrummage, it's Paul James, and it's a bit like Project Haaland, but just for going forward in scrums, and that's what I'm hoping for.
And hopefully now he's in the Wales camp, which is the bit we sort of mentioned offhand, which is a bit of news I forgot. Maybe that'll help push through. And I think that's the end of 20s done. It was wet, windy, but it was nice to see like a Wales team not at least doing what we sort of hoped that the Wales seniors do, where they spent I would say a good 50 to 60 minutes matching up to physicality. I mean, one thing I noticed, at least according to Rugby Pass, England only used 4 subs, which said, and we emptied our bench, so that says a lot. Anyway, so I promise this is the last bit of me trying to flog stuff to you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a little banner on the bottom of the shop, which just hats and t-shirts with logos from all the various pods. Check it out. Just makes a little bit of extra money for the pod. Oh, no, that's fine. So we'll move on to the preview now. So France, I'm guessing we all watched it, but France pretty comprehensively beat Ireland on Thursday night. I can only see pain that I know Hugh's peddling the idea of France putting a rotated side, and I'm thinking, one, they probably won't, but even if they do, I think a rotated France side is.
It was already a rotated side.
I think that's just kind of how they want to play it, but I'm there thinking, yeah. So instead of having the Bordeaux 10, 12, 13, we're going to do the POW 10, 12, 13 because POW aren't playing particularly well at all. Oh wait, no, they're second in the top 14 at the moment.
This week last week rather, they had two back rows in the second row, very large back rows, but they did. They can carry on doing that because we have absolutely no heft. We have heft, but we just don't use it. Well,
I brought this up, didn't I? After that game, go look at that, 16 carries from the second row. How dare they?
It's illegal. That
is illegal. That what was Ollie Chesham like on the weekend, carrying the ball in open play? God, look at that, second rows that are willing to carry. But yeah, I think what you mentioned, like the rotation. Unfortunately for Wales, only so much rotation you can do with a 35-man squad. When 23 of them have all, you got to pick 23. And from France's perspective, number one, you still got to go and win. Number two, you probably want to win with a bonus point, just in case it comes down to, just in case it's not a Grand Slam on. And it also may come down to points difference. As Wales had to go and demolish Italy previously, remember? When we won by 70, was it, out in Italy a few, about 10 years ago? So
14.
So I think that it could be a tough day at the office for the boys. But it can't get any worse than this, can it?
I think this as well, like just on rotation, like in Wales, we sort of have a starting 15, but even then, like, we don't really have a starting 15. Like, there's plenty of places where we're just like, nobody actually should be, of our options, maybe none of them should be starting in an international side. Right?
I'd argue for the first time in maybe a decade with Jack Morgan injured, we don't really have a seven.
But then you turn to France, and France have so much depth that they were able to leave out their top ever try scorer in Damien Penaud, who is still very, very good. They were also able to leave out Gael Fickou. Like, they're just leaving players out left, right, and centre. They could have a completely different starting 15 and they would be fine. Like, even if you're just like, the only nailed on starters, I think, really in that French side, where there's like a notable difference between the person that's starting and maybe their second, is like Antoine Dupont, Louis Beep Beep, and Thomas Ramos.
I don't know. I don't really want to face Baptiste Saran either, to be honest.
No.
Like,
I'd be tempted to go just to watch Baptiste play. Oh God, I love that man. Sorry, that's me going the stream.
oh no, I get it.
But
So-
do you remember when England lost to France in like 2024 at Twickenham,
Yeah.
and it ended up being England's largest ever loss at Twickenham?
Yeah,
That's how I'm imagining France are going to play at the weekend,
Yeah,
where
they've
they're
got
just
they've got
chucking the
ability
ball
to.
about.
They've got the
Yeah.
ability
Right.
to, and the roof will be closed. There's no doubt, because it hasn't been wet enough in Wales or the UK either, is it, over recent weeks? Don't get me started on the weather.
we play in the Brewery Field.
I think
Yeah,
they'd
well.
still win.
But
Yeah, no, but it'd be funnier.
let you go on about
It's
the
probably
depth,
that
mind.
amount of tickets sold, actually.
Yeah.
I'll be one of them. Don't you worry. When you go on about depth, and this is the sort of thing that you produce, mind, when you take what is effectively a C team down to New Zealand over the summer. That's the level of depth you're looking at. South Africa have done the same. England are starting to do the same. But I would suggest France and South Africa are way ahead in terms of international depth compared to anyone. Let's not beat around the bush. France have got 2 pro leagues, at least. Potentially our starting tight end on the weekend could be a Pro D2 player. So, albeit only for the rest of this season before he goes away, but it could be a struggle for the boys on Saturday, and this is what I was sort of edging towards earlier on. Is that I've got tickets to go. I'll be down there.
Sorry for you.
And I tell you the reason why I did it was because, for me, I kind of felt that it was a bit like, if you don't vote in the general election, you don't get to have a moan about the result. So I thought, well, we're all having a little moan at the moment, so I'll go down and support the boys, because it's not necessarily the players' fault, and they are going to run out on the field in a Welsh jersey, and I feel they should be able to do it in front of a capacity or a near capacity crowd. It's rugby's greatest cathedral, isn't it? The National Stadium down in Cardiff. Ask every away player where your favourite stadium is. They'll say it's Cardiff, outside of their home nation. So that's where we're at with it. And I felt I didn't want to give the union an excuse to go, oh well, we're definitely skint now, because we've got to cut something because people haven't been turning up to games. And
I feel that might happen anyway. Basically.
yeah, but and then someone, I think it was Jamie, that shared something in the WhatsApp group earlier on, saying that based on current figures, we stand to lose 4 million quid as a union, and that sort of changed my thinking on it a little bit. And I saw some commentary on X, whereby someone quoted going, well, if the ultimate vote of no confidence is that you can't fill the National Stadium of Wales for a rugby match when rugby's your national sport. And I think they're right. So, how long's T&E been in position? 3 years?
Joined just before the 23 World Cup, I want to say.
So coming
Yeah, I
up
want
to
to
3
say
years.
like 2.5, yeah.
Collier Keywood the same?
Minus that one she was off for being
Yeah,
away.
she
I
was
feel
out
like
for about 6 months.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. But the current regime then, have we're on about KPIs now for non-playing members of the non, on-field stuff. So for off-field performance now, surely one of your KPIs have got to be ensuring that you can fill that stadium. And you have failed by tens of thousands of people and millions of pounds. The only way that the public can vote is with their feet. And therefore, it does pain me to say it, but it's time to go.
Mm.
You failed. You failed. You're not making money. The game is in. The union's never been more hated. The transparency from the union is absolutely shocking. There's calls, for an EGM. You have to go now. It's done. It's done and dusted. You have to leave. Because you failed purely on figures and maths. You've banged on about data previously. You're being data led. Well, there's data for you. There's, 50, 60, 70,000 unsold seats, 4 million quid's worth of tickets. So it's time to go now. Give someone else a go. Let someone else try and, drag us out of the doldrums, because this is not acceptable. How can it be acceptable? And I'm assuming this is monetary based, that the senior national team haven't got a full-time defence coach. We haven't got full-time coaching staff in the senior men's national team. That baffles me. That baffles me. It's negligence.
I think just to jump on what you're saying here, Dan. One, I don't think, even if they've got a plan and they're halfway through the plan, there is no way they can bring back public confidence in what they're doing. So really, their only option is to go. But the thing is, what we've seen over the last couple of years is like the age grade sides get pared back. The women's side got pared back. There's only one full-time coach in the women's side. Now the men's side is getting pared back. We're constantly, we were talking earlier about how a lot of the coaches that are coming into the men's side are part-time. They're also, what's the word I'm looking for? Interim. So they're not even like on proper contracts. So we don't know, like they're not going in their like off-season planning, because they're not actually working for the union to do that, even at a part-time level. So it's just this circle of shit. And they clearly just are not right for the roles.
It's rugby austerity, and
Yeah.
I know that we can bang on about the number of regions. Having 4 regions is not our problem. The fact is that we've absolutely smashed our pathway to death. It's gone. We've got no pathway anymore, right? So you have to rebuild that. Rebuild the foundations before you muck about with anything else, right? That would be my plea to you. But the fact that you can't get people in this, and I know the rugby's pretty bad at the minute, and it is. We're not winning, but I remember the days like remember '99 where
No, I wasn't born.
we played at
Eaters.
maybe I'm talking to the wrong age group here, but before Scott Gibbs scored that try at Wembley, Welsh Rugby was poor then, but we were still able to fill stadiums. Not only were we able to fill stadiums, we were able to fill Wembley Stadium, which is 150 miles up the road or whatever it is, depending on where you are in Wales, obviously. We were still able to do that. Now we can't even fill the greatest rugby ground on it, because I think if the politics weren't so bad, people will still go. And I know it's expensive, right? I understand that, but people will still go. The beer and the party atmosphere in Cardiff is exactly the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, however long ago. Cardiff's a brilliant party city. We've all been there where people have been going in, not even necessarily to watch the game, but just for a day on the piss, effectively. But they're not even bothering to spend their money to do that now, because you've dragged us down to this level. You can't even fill it with piss heads.
Do you know how many tickets there are left for the Italy game? Gonna guess.
Up to 30,000, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's absurd. That's literally half a stadium.
Yeah,
That's
they might not.
bigger than any of the regional stadiums. In fact, it might be the regional stadiums added together.
If that, I think so.
Just about.
I was going to say it's more than any
Cardiff
regional.
is about 15.
I was going to say it's
12.
if you
Smaller
add.
than you think. Actually, it's about 12.
Yeah.
So no, it's only for like European when they open up as temporary standard, and they go to 15, isn't it? It's dark.
So,
Yeah.
so they have failed. The board of everyone has failed. You know, they've had 2.5 years at it, and they failed.
And
The
it's
ki-
just
the ki-
getting worse.
the keep yeah, and it's just getting worse. And if they're going to carry on, I'm under no illusion these things need to change. I think everyone listening to this and everyone on this podcast, we need change. And I'm sure more sensible people will know that it should start with our pathways.
Mm.
Yeah, I just want to back you up there, Dan, if you don't mind me
Yeah,
popping in.
yeah, go on.
So, Italy, when they had Conor O'Shea as the head coach, they made a brave decision. They decided to not completely ignore their senior team side, but they basically went, we're going to make do with what we've got. It's going shit, but we're going to make do. We'll try and improve bits here and there. But the thing they focused on, absolutely everything before anything else, was they were establishing pathways, whether it's linking with top 14 academies, whether it was basically funding the level underneath Bennett and Zebra to bring them through and to bring through. And then we saw the results where, first of all, their under 20s started getting a little bit better. And then they started bringing some of those under 20s into the thing. And then you had Franco Smith, and all right, that reign didn't go very well, but you could see improvements, and they started nearing on. And now we're at a point now where Italy could finish fourth or third in the Six Nations, and it's not that much of a shock.
Yeah.
Like, they've already beaten Scotland. They'll probably, there's a good chance they'll beat Wales, and they could give the other three a damn hard go. If they can't, if Ireland are as off as they were against France, there's a good chance Italy could get a couple of points out in Dublin. But that started with them focusing on the pathway and getting through the development. And even if, and maybe that's something that I have to say with the regions, saying we can't bring the regional budgets up much more, but we're going to plug the money into your academy through that, and then you can use that. And that's, and any academy players you use don't count in your salary cap, whatever. As we blood them in, we get the SRC right up, and the SRC is then a league full of teams which are all about developing talent. And then the only real experienced players you've got there are more, you get you have a couple of props or a lock there who are just there to sort of teach the younger generation to be a bit of a gnarly bastard. Like Ebu Vale is the perfect breeding ground for gnarly bastards. And how many have they? I think they're one of the fewest Dragons
Yeah,
Academy.
it does need to change it, and and wherever that you're right, wherever that criteria needs to be, whether it's you either have to be like under 23 and in the sort of academy system some way, and then be like an ex-pro on the way down, or whatever it may be, to pass on that experience, like you said, Harley. Just so they're getting hit from both ends, because if I think effectively, and I stand to be corrected you from, and ultimately at the moment Evervale can run their club however they want, and they're successful at it, they top the league, but it's effectively a team of semi-pro rugby players that they put together, and a good one. But it's no the development then, I suppose, aspect of it is how many of those boys are going to step up into the pro game. Probably none of them, because this all built around performing for Ebervale, and Chippy's gone in and done a very good job at it. But the SRC is a development league, isn't it?
Anyway,
But I think, sorry, I was just going to say very quickly that one bit of news that we kind of skipped over was the fact that Harlequins have signed 3 Welsh players on like short-term loans. Actually, those players should be going to the likes of, an SRC side to develop whilst the regions are on pause, for the Six Nations, and getting their game time there instead of going over the bridge, in my opinion.
I think it does depend. Ideally, we want the SRC to be almost English Championship level or Prem Cup level.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They're
We're
going
not
over
there
to
yet,
play Prem Cup.
Which I appreciate. This is only the second season, so we do need to start building up. I feel like Cardiff's probably the only one at the moment that's regularly pulling people up and down. Although I think Dragons have been doing it as well with
Newport and Pontypool have 7, 8 Dragons lads in there regularly.
So I said I'm not entirely sure with the other two.
We've got a few here and there.
A few, but then I feel like some of your SRC quality guys ended up like Charlie Titcombe ended up going back over the bridge and things. And I mean, that's I think just one of the issues Wales and all. Anyway, I think we could do a whole pod just talking about the pathways and things like that. We're going to go back to France so Sunday afternoon. So I think all of us are thinking it's going to be a bit pain. I think we're going to do I want to do team selection, just basically what we think. Steve Tandy said in his press conference that he thinks it's wrong at the moment. Because the way he sees it with the Mariners, he wants to basically stick with his group. So we're not going to see too many changes. I kind of
think
disagree
that's
because I
the
feel like
wrong
we need some fun.
approach.
I feel like we need a fundamental change, which I think we've all alluded to. What I want to go quickly before we start going through the team.
Did he really say that?
Yeah, he said he's not planning on doing wholesale changes.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
And the thing is, to me, the players actually that I felt or feel that need to have that change and actually need to be refreshed, if we want to put it that way, are the players that he seems to have nailed down. Like our 10-12 doesn't work. We need to change this. But yet he's absolutely certain that's what we're going to have.
Yeah. So we'll go back to the actual defection. So first of all, I just want everyone to go through and say very briefly what they think the priority should be with this Wales squad, what we're trying to improve, and then use that to focus any changes we think. So I think Dan, I'm probably going to steal Dan's, which for me it's physicality and defense. I think first of all, I agree with Dan. We're too much for leaky. He said, yes, it would be nice scoring tries, but we're not really doing that either. So I'd rather let's get that against column a bit lower first, and then maybe build up from that. And then my second priority is set piece. Don't know if anyone has anything else they want to check in on that.
Collisions. Win more collisions. Win more gain line. Win more rugby games. Simple as that.
What I'd like to see, is I just want to see just slightly more competence, almost, where it's just sort of a calming presence, because it feels like, especially in the England game, we just seemed super on edge, constant in everything we did, and how jumpy we were, especially like the amount of sort of offsides just in midfield was absurd, and I need to see that changed. You can't win rugby games when you're giving away on just boring face play around the halfway mark and you just give away a pen. It's like, no, it's stuck in 5 minutes. Great.
I would like to see big bastards that can tackle.
Excellent. So I said going through, so we'll start with front row. So obviously last week we started off with Nicky Smith, Derry Lake, and Archie Griffin. Any changes there for me personally? I think with my priority towards set piece, I'd like Thomas Francis in there, and he's getting around the park is good enough for me on that one.
He looked good when he came on.
Yeah.
He looked like he hadn't been out of Welsh shirt for 2 years, which is a big compliment for a big man who's been playing the Predator for 2 years. He looks like he's ready for international rugby still.
So Lake is a captain, so I feel like there's not any change there. Are we happy to keep Nicky Smith? I don't think he had a particularly good game, and I think he was on the wrong side of the referee.
Yeah, but I don't think our other options are better.
This is what I was going to say is, so if we're going for defensive solidity, you've got Gareth Thomas, who is fantastic chop tackler, but and he will keep that scrum locked up. You're not going to win scrum penalties, but you don't tend to lose too many on his side either. But he has been out for a bit. And then you've got Reece Carey. If you want to win collisions going forward, he came on and started bowling some people over. I think the only time he really had any issues was when he got caught in a pod static, which I think is a larger problem with Wales's attack of just not moving on the ball. So
yeah, I don't mind which way they play. To be honest, I think Carey probably gives him more off the bench in terms of impact, but there's going to be those 4 props that we've named should stay in the squad. I think. For me, it would just be a change of bench hooker.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Sam Wainwright. I think he's been very good in the limited minutes he's had this season. Watching him at least. I mean,
You didn't watch that extra game, did you?
On purpose. I wasn't paying for it. But it's one against Angus Bell against the Heads for Ulster at home was him. And he's always done the job for Wales. I mean, he held his own out in South Africa best part of 4 years ago. And I don't know,
Yeah, but that was 4 years ago.
he hasn't gotten worse.
Hasn't necessarily gotten better.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Archie Griffin is quite there.
Yeah, I
Only for
feel like
consideration.
I feel like with Archie Griffin, it's almost the same issue Cardiff have had with Will Davis King, where because he's a big lad,
Mm.
we're desperately wanting him to be good, whereas I feel like he's just not. I mean, for me, I think I keep saying this every time when we bring up Archie Griffin. I just don't think he plays enough, which also for me is a negative mark against Wainwright. He's not really been playing for Cardiff because we've basically been switching between Haven Sebastian and Azarati. I mean, that's where they bench hooker. I see Elias going for just basically a bigger bod.
Yeah.
I mean, our lineup's terrible anyway. I'm not too worried about Elias's darts when they roll.
Could it get any worse?
Oh, it can.
So,
So
Yeah.
Elias,
Elias
yeah.
on the
So
bench.
do we think Elias for Belcher? I know he's
Yeah.
you got cap. I know they talk about the captaincy thing, but I feel like the amount of time they give Lake anyway, I don't think it really matters with your bench hooker because I don't think they're on long enough to make an impact anyway. Moving on to second row, Tandy is going to keep the same one. Do we think we want to refresh it? Do we want to either drop Beard or Jenkins as Haynes
Yeah.
sounds because they are out now our two best second rows, but I feel like
we
as a
need
lot
to
of
bring
partnership, I
Carter
don't
in.
think it works.
Well, I
I
think we need to
and
bring Reece
I-
Davison.
Do you know what you stole the march from me there? I was going to say I know he was a late caller, but if we're talking about we want someone to just hit people in defence and to just make some horrible hard yards in a Jake Ball-esque way, but with slightly less fragility of Jake Ball at the moment.
He's an old fella.
He is. This is part of the reason why I wasn't even vaguely surprised he wasn't in the squad is because he lasts about 20 minutes. He'd last about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Given how he's been for the Scarlets. Yeah. For me, I think Reece Davis. I feel like again.
Yeah, Reece Davis.
I feel like Ben Carter hasn't had a fair enough crack, but I feel like Reece Davis. Here's one thing: he's not really for mobility. He's not. He's not going to give you like out the back passes.
Oh, I disagree.
It's not the main part of his game. Come on, let's be honest. If you're going to ask what was Reece Davis known for, it's hitting people in a legal fashion, and I think that's what we need.
And Carter on the bench.
Keep Carter on the bench.
There's no reason having Adam Beard on the bench.
Beard goes. Look, and I understand the argument for Beard was that his maul defence is outstanding. His running of the lineup was superb. Well, lineup was crap on the weekend, and the maul defence we got absolutely mullered. So give him a whiff. Reece Davis in it to go and whack someone. Jenkins and Carter off the bench.
And then on the theme to whacking people, so back row, as much as I love Alex Mann, I personally, for me, I mean, I think you keep Wainwright, whether you keep him at 8 or you push him up to 6 for this guy. I think Cracknell comes in because again, I think Cracknell's the secret of why, as part of him and Henry Legan, the reason why people think Tommy Rafael should be in this squad. And I think it's basically the work those two do allow Raffle to do his thing. So I think it might free up McLeod a little bit more.
Yeah, agreed.
For turnovers. And I would have Jim Botham over Tame Plumtree on the bench. He covers the full back three. He's a like for like. Again, McLeod and Botham are basically Jack Morgan light type players. Very good in tight carries. Very good over the ball. Very solid defensively. They can all other than Jack Morgan, they can jump in the line out if we need them to. But I think then when we talk tactics, you can talk about having a shortened line out anyway. So we'll see them more in midfield. And I just always love the impact Botham does whenever he's playing for Wales or Cardiff.
Botham has been consistently very good for Wales. I remember autumn of 24, he was one of the few players that came out of any credit in the bank, and then it all went away because we forgot about him.
Yeah,
as usual.
Plumtree should never see a Welsh jersey again. The amount he's just an absolute penalty machine. Yellow cards like on the weekend again. It's pointless, absolutely pointless until he can get that under control.
Yeah, I do think he needs. I love playing Tame Plumtree, as you guys know, and I do think he just needs to grow up a little bit.
It's done for
again.
Me, so.
And I also think the reputation needs a bit of a reset, so maybe he just needs to
Yeah,
Yeah, I
off he
think it's
goes.
similar with Deves and Mann as well. Like I feel like almost as great as having that energy and that fight. Although Harry Deves was one of our better carriers for ball carriers in terms of making the gain line and actually
I
making
thought
combat
Deves, I
league
thought
decisions.
Deves done okay. Man
Hmm.
for me, my problem with Man is he's not, and I like how industrious he is. He's a bit. He just needs 10 kilos on him.
He's a bit lanky for a six.
Yeah, he's stuck in that in between. It's almost like he's got a little bit of growing left. Stick 5 to 10 kilos on him, and he becomes an enforcer. But at the minute, he's not quite at that level internationally for me.
I mean, he is
Um,
definitely guaranteed getting a penalty or or a card on your opposition just by him being an annoying prick, which
yeah,
is part of the
yeah,
reason I love Alex Mann. But I agree. I think he still has some growing to do.
yeah,
Mm.
and that's it, and that's it for me. You want someone, that back row now. If you when you throw Cracknell and you got 200, 210 kg ball carriers in Wayne, and what it's about when you go Reece Davis in there as well, and it's about being multi-threat in the ball carrying department. So if we end up with like Carey, Lake, Wayno, Reece Davis, and Cracknell on the field at the same time, then there's 5 out of the 8 that are genuine ball carrying threats. So when they're in their pod of 3 to carry, it's which ones are going to.
Mm.
Whereas if you're lining up and Wayno stood in the queen slot, and you've got Beard on one side and Man on the other side, for example, chances are it's going to Wayno because he's the most dangerous ball carrier. The other two are not as big a threat as he is. So he gets doubled up. It's much easier to defend against. So yeah,
I
that's
think.
that's that's why
Sorry,
I would go with that back row balance. Sorry, Harry.
I was just gonna say, you're saying it's easy. I think that's our problem with our team section that we had last week. We were so easy to read because so many of our players were quite one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew exactly what Dan Ellis was going to do. You knew what Ben Thomas was going like. It was just so easy to read in defence and in attack.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to pull it to a stat. So the two ways you can look at it, but I think we all know the more realistic way of it is. So based on the Opta analyst stats that are out, Wales were top for committing 2 or more tacklers. Now, one side you say is that us, we're able to pull in defenses and they're going for but it's basically England were able to double shot us every time because they knew exactly where the ball was going every single time.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of alluding to. And then it's really hard, especially if you have a 1v2 collision,
Do it.
to get any sort of then you're on about like your sort of rocket and ram scenario where you're dependent on the tackler, and all this sort of stuff. It just kills you off. So we need gain line. So that has to be our back row because that's all that's in the squad.
Yeah. All right. So then moving on to the back line, I think Thomas nailed down he is our best 9, whether you think it
Oh
was 4 or
yeah,
that he just is. Um, there is a conversation, albeit very quick. It could be a very quick one. Is do we give Dan Edwards a break and bring Costello again? It's sure enough. If our priority is defense,
Costello's
do you
the
go do you
answer.
go for Costello, who is
Yeah.
in terms of defense, he's one of the better tacklers in the squad. Actually, he's one of the better squad tacklers.
Mm.
Has the slightly more rounded kicking game. However, I see the argument of like chopping and changing everything. Because I don't actually think we've had that much of a settled midfield for quite a while. Because there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Ben Thomas had all these games at 12," and went, "Yeah, but he's had a different 9, 10, and 13 in almost every
yeah.
single one."
But I think one of our
And I
biggest,
think the same applies is at 10.
yeah, I do see that argument, and I understand that argument. However, that 10-12 combo has was all throughout the autumn. Uh, it it's not working. We know it's not working. If our top priority is defence, Dan Edwards is not the answer, and we move to Costello. Um,
I
and
don't think it.
personally, I don't think.
I'm gonna be a bit off filter here. I think Watkins should come in for Ben Thomas instead.
Oh, I was going to say move
let
Eddie
us get to
James.
midfield in a second,
No.
but
Yeah,
I think if it's either you change Dan Eds or you change Ben Thomas, you can't change both.
Oh, I think we've changed both. I don't think it's working.
yeah. For me, it's you don't want to, one bad game and Shepherd's, Crook, Edwards, Costello had a run of games, before Edwards was given the, it's a little bit, but
I don't think
I
Costello
wouldn't
was.
be
I think he's had such
Uh,
poor
th-
injury runs. I don't think he
yeah,
ever has
Yeah,
like
but you
that.
think now, mind he played in, in the 2023 World Cup and so on and so forth. He has had more game time than Dan Edwards. And I don't think one bad game necessarily deserves the Shepherd's crook, especially when you haven't got an outlet outside of you in terms of getting you out of trouble from a carrying perspective. So I think I'm leaning towards keeping him, but with Costello on the bench.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be too gutted if I wouldn't put it this way. I wouldn't drop Dan Edwards out the squad completely. I'd have
No.
2 10s in the squad this weekend,
yeah.
and we go from there.
I think for me, it's not. Yes, Dan Edwards had a bad game in the game that's just gone. He's also had a run of games where we haven't done anything. Like we haven't. Our defense has been poor. Our attack hasn't been particularly great. At what point does he answer?
Well, it's really old-fashioned way of looking at it, isn't it, right? But when your pack gets beat up like it did on the weekend, and you're playing on the back foot, what can a number 10 do? We could have had prime Dan Carter in there on the weekend. He may have made more tackles, but he ain't
He
having
wouldn't
any
have
ball to
passed the
play
ball to
with.
people's feet.
Well, yeah, there is that.
I mean,
But
you can. I mean, if you can use that logic, you can say, well, if your 10's getting shit service, he's not going to service your 12 properly. So it doesn't matter if you've got Marnonu there at 12.
well, no,
We can
the
cascade
difference.
this out,
No, but the
but
difference would be at 12. If you did ship the ball to Marnano, he's got the ability to get you gain line through his ball carrying alone, not his distribution.
I mean, then that comes to the attack coach for finding a way to make it or to have Eddie James coming in at 12. But speaking of Eddie James at 12, I'm not going to make any secret. This is my preferred solution. I think we know we're going to stick with a playmaker. My thing is though, I think if you put Joe Hawkins in, you're going to have the
Yeah.
exact same problems.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
I don't think that extra 4 kilos, even because everyone's saying he's a bigger
He's
player,
not.
he's a centimeter taller and 4 kilos heavier, depending on what they've both had for breakfast. Like, I don't think that changes anything.
I think like Joe Hawkins is also noticeably quite a lot worse defensively. Against the All Blacks, he missed what, like 5, 6 tackles at 12, which is not.
At least Ben Thomas is making the tackles. He's probably not winning the collision, but he's at least getting the player down. So that's at least something. It's better than missing it. I know Dan will say, you want someone to win a collision. I said, for me, the option out of the centres we've got is I think you need to bring Eddie James in. I think we have to revert back until we've got a pack that's winning collisions enough that the back line can do what they want. We need to have that Jamie Roberts-esque game line merchant. Eddie James is playing very well at 12. The other good benefit is Eddie James does not have to learn how to defend the 13 channel at international level. Because as Josh Adams and George North can tell you, it's a fucking horrible way to learn how to defend the 13 channel.
Yeah.
So let's get Eddie James in it, and then this for me means you're 13. Now the option, there are other options here, but I think for me the option then is Watkin at 13. And again,
Absolutely.
it's going back on our focus of defense first. It's not going to be an exciting attack. I appreciate that. I'm going to get people telling me about that as well, and it's uninspiring, but it's going to solve that problem better to start off with.
Agreed.
I mean, maybe then you do something crazy like bringing Grady in at 13 towards the end. Whatever, just to see how that works and having 2 big lumps in the midfield. But I think to start off, give us 60 minutes of Owen Watkin just marching it. And, as Zach said, we haven't really got a defensive leader on that back line. Let's have that. And then moving to the back 3, I
think we keep,
The back 3 were largely pretty competent.
Yeah.
And I think Ellis Me will get probably slightly better change out of a slightly refined kicking game.
But I think his defence at the weekend was actually quite good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's meet.
The only
And
thing
then
for me on that is we got Rogers in the squad. Last time out, he scored a hat trick against the All Blacks. Why? What's he done wrong? And also good under the high ball.
So who would you? I mean, for me, I know me and Hattie were advocates for him as our 15, but I think Zamet's done well enough to earn going through. Who would you drop? So I've seen a lot of calls of Josh Adams going. So considering how shit that Wales team was, so these are Josh's stats. So 29 meters from his 4 carries, he had gain line success on every single carry. No penalties conceded. So all those carries are dominant. He had 2 line break assists, 1 line break, 1 try. Made his 4 out of 5 tackles.
I'd keep him in there.
That's up the top there. Ellis May again made his he made all his tackles. His work in the air was not perfect, but still pretty good compared to considering where the balls went. That's where I think I'm a bit. I mean, but I agree. I mean, I'm a big fan of Tom Rogers.
I
For
think
me,
he
it would
just
just be like
misses
for like
out.
for me.
I think he's just unlucky to miss out. Personally, for me,
Tom Rogers is just fourth choice. Like Josh Adams is a proven international, been there, done it, been part of arguably the second best Wales team in the professional era.
Do we then put Tom Rogers on the bench, or do we go with Mason Grady to have a big lump and have Mason Grady be able to play 13 and on the wing?
because I've got Hugh shouting in my ear, not literally, but in my ear, saying, "There's no point putting a back 3 player on the bench."
That's what I've got in my head.
But I mean, Mason Grady brings more impact off the bench, no matter what, just because he is a lump who is quick. Like Tom Rogers is a very technical winger. He's very similar to Josh Adams, but just slightly smaller.
Yeah, I'd stick, and he's big guy, so we need that physicality. So I'd go Grady on the bench as well. The thing for me, the issue is at scrum half a little bit in that Kieran Hardy had
a minute.
So what's the point
Or it
in
might be
selecting
90.
him if we don't think he's going to get on the field? Basically, at the moment now, what they're basically saying that our scrum half bench is injury cover. Because
But then
Thomas,
you're so screwed if you don't have a scrum half on the bench. And
I agree, but again, this goes back to the
If
original.
only Ellis Jenkins was still fit and available.
Should have called up Kieran Giles.
Shea Hope should have been in our squad from the start because he's confident, he's in form, and I think you can trust him more as an option.
I think he
could do a job on the wing.
Yeah, I was going to say he's the sort of option you get away with a wing, which means if you are worried about physicality and you want to put like a second lock on the bench,
then there's that option as well. But there you go. So he's probably going to go Kieran Hardy again on the bench because he didn't have much game time. So that'll sort that out.
So I think, are we going? I suppose if we want a 10 and Mason Grady on the bench, we're going 5-3. So I'm guessing bench. We're talking Elias, Carey, and Griffin. Then Ben Carter, and Jim Botham.
Yeah.
And then so Hardy, Costello, and Grady.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is our team, do you want to have another look at Ruben Morgan-Williams, who's sort of there as the holding tackle bags option if we haven't got a Shea Hope?
I'm not too bothered either way which one they put on the bench.
I think it depends what you want. I think Kieran Hardy's very good around the base and kicking wise. But again, the last 20 minutes against France, or last 5 minutes against France, fucking Rupert Morgan-Williams on, he's more likely to create something out of nothing, it feels like, after watching both of them for 2 seasons now.
The reality is for the Nines, they're only going to get on the field for small minutes, so it doesn't matter who you put on there. We could wheel Gareth Edwards back out again because he wouldn't, he'd survive for 2 minutes.
I think we bring on Kira Bevan so she can slot a last-minute penalty.
Even though it's 73, it's going to finish 73-3. At least Kira Bevan's there to secure the 3.
She got us that 3.
And if you want physicality in your back line,
if you want a bit of bullshit, KB's your gal.
There we go. So we're locked in.
Yeah. So Hattie, you're gonna post. I'm guessing you're gonna
Yeah, I've
do your
written it
wizardry.
down.
Yep, cool. So we'll have a picture. Hopefully that'll all be out before the team's announced on Friday. I said they didn't. I haven't seen any sign of a midweek press conference, so I think they've gone full circle the wagons. What's a good result for Wales this time? Is it a score target? Is it a
A good result would be to minimise. I sound stupid, doesn't it? But to keep it under 50. I think an exception. Wales are not going to win this fixture, right? I think an exceptional result for Wales would be to stop France getting a bonus point at home, a try scoring bonus point. If we can do that and make it really difficult for them to score, I think that's whatever happens. Then the boys have gone out on their shields and they learn much more respect from the public um, than some of the shit they're taking online at the moment. And that's a tough ask, mine, because this is a free scoring French team. Well, they score 6 on the weekend, 5 or 6 on the weekend against
and
Ireland.
probably should have got a few more.
Or maybe should have got a few more. So I can't, if we can concede, even if they do get a bonus point, there's 4 tries.
Keep it under
Then
35. Keep it
yeah.
under 30. That'd be
As I
ideal.
said, for me,
but-
if France are forced to work really hard for their tries or just some absolute bullshit that they do, I take it.
Yeah. I'd
But
almost look at the fixture in 24 when we were in it for the first half properly. I think we went into half time winning or like down by a point. And anything near that level of sort of competitiveness from us would just be nice. Almost like the New Zealand game where we're in it for 60 minutes and then tail off once France brings on their unfair bench.
I think for me, if we can make sure that they don't get a bonus point in the first half, because whenever that happens, it's just purely embarrassing.
That's a fair point. And what's a poor result? Anything that happened,
Getting nilled
anything that's like South Africa-esque.
If we're getting breaking records for how bad the loss is.
That's disaster station. So
I think for me, it's if there's no obvious improvement. If, as we're expecting Tandy do, is to name the same team, and they don't improve in any facet, I think that's and I feel like it's almost a vindication for those of us who've said this attack. As much as I'd love to see the jockey attack dual playmaker thing work, it's not going to work, and it's not going to work with this Wales team. If we're coming out of this and thinking, what was the point of this? All we've done is further demoralize some players. Then I think that's a poor result for me. Like, the whole idea is, if Tandy and Co wants us to come with them on the journey, and they're saying that, it's about getting us ready for 2027 and more realistically 31. We've got to see improvement. We've got to see better organisation in defence. We've got to see the set piece functioning a bit better. If we have a scene, so one of the other clips Dan shared on the WhatsApp group was a Wales line out in, what was it, on the England 10-metre line, and that led to the Ellis, the try that only got chalked off because Ellis Genge did a neck roll. Like, if we've seen stuff like that,
yeah, defensively,
where I feel like it's almost an effort thing more than a skill thing.
Yes,
I think that for me is a disastrous game.
That is, and because effort takes zero talent. There's some things in a rugby match you can do that take no talent whatsoever. You can be the first off the floor. You can run the furthest. You can get off the line. You can work harder than your opposite number. That doesn't take any talent whatsoever. We're not on about catch, pass, sidestep, even tackle, tech, or anything like that. It's just things that require no talent. And if we can match that desire that the French will bring, then we make a game of it, won't we? It's as simple as that. So yeah, but look, I'm going to be there, so I don't know where I'm sitting. Hopefully in the good seats. There'll be plenty of them spare for me to move, I suppose. If so, yeah, I'll be there. I'd be interested to see what it's like, atmosphere wise, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'll report back. pop along and say hi, and we'll have a beer if anyone else is in the ground, come say hello. And we can all have a good moan together. It'll be like therapy at half time.
And if you're watching from home, please remember Beer 52.
Absolutely. Beer 52. Remember, beer52.com/WRRAP. And I lied. That was the last plug, but it wasn't planned. I'm not going to make you all think of predictions because I think we're all going to say it's probably going to be a comfortable France win.
Wales by 40.
Okay, now somehow we've dropped Zach and got the original Ospreys presenter and Carwin back with that score.
I was doing it so it goes in the next prediction league.
Just drag him
Oh,
down.
we're not doing that and that. So it's but that's a URC only thing.
So yeah, Pob luck, boys. Take it to him.
Unless anyone has anything else to say or wants a message of hope, I say, or let's say, thank you, Zach, for stepping in short notice. Thank you, Hattie and Jan, for joining me as ever.
Pleasure.
And Nostar, everyone else.
Nostar.
Nostar.